This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, plus special features and reports with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
Good Wednesday afternoon. Thanks for checking in. The war may be over, but the violence continues in war-torn Gaza. Hamas terrorists are killing Palestinian civilians there. Trey Yingst gets us started.
These were public executions that took place. I've seen the video, and Hamas is lining people up and killing them because they're accusing them of simple things like stealing. And it gives you a sense of the judicial system that Hamas has implemented inside Gaza. And there's a lot of fear among Palestinian civilians about how the group will crack down in the aftermath of the war.
President Trump says Hamas must lay down its arms for peace to take hold in the Holy Land.
If they don't disarm, we will disarm them. And it'll happen quickly and perhaps violently. But they will disarm.
Hamas has yet to hand over the remains of all the hostages that died in captivity following their kidnappings October 7th, 2023. The terror group says some of the victims may be buried in the rubble of collapsed buildings. 90% of the buildings in Gaza were damaged or destroyed by the war. The government shutdown has entered its third week with no end in sight to that fiscal stalemate. Ryan Nobles has more from Capitol Hill.
The Trump administration has plans to move money around in an effort to make sure that active duty service members get paid and critical social benefits continue. But those measures are only temporary.
Social Security recipients and those on Medicaid will still receive benefits, though cost of living adjustments for Social Security are being delayed due to the shutdown. The U.S. Senate will try again this afternoon to end the stalemate. Chaos in California. Los Angeles County has declared a state of emergency over the Trump administration's immigration enforcement efforts. The Department of Homeland Security says ICE agents are being targeted for violence. Here's reporter Douglas Ader.
DHS also says there is a tiered bounty system that's been set up by Mexican cartels, offering rewards for intelligence about immigration agents, rewards for kidnapping them, and up to $50,000 for the assassination of high-ranking officers.
Illegal immigrants were arrested yesterday in Chicago for ramming a Border Patrol vehicle. Attorney General Pam Bondi has just removed a Facebook group that was doxing and targeting ICE agents in America's third largest city. Cops had to use tear gas last night to break up an angry mob in Chicago. Another drug boat from Venezuela has been blown up by the U.S. military. Correspondent Jared Halpern.
President Trump says 6 people were killed aboard a vessel associated with narco-terrorist networks. The president has authorized the military to carry out strikes on boats suspected of trafficking illegal drugs to the U.S. as they travel in international waters.
That's Jared Halpern in Washington. The U.S. Supreme Court took up the thorny issue of congressional redistricting today. Here's legal analyst Jessica Levinson.
The big issue is whether or not states can consider race when they're drawing district lines, or if that violates the Constitution.
A decision expected next spring, just months ahead of the 2026 midterm elections. The death penalty is alive and well in this country. Apparently, more condemned killers have been put to death this year than in any year going back 13 years to 2012. 2 executions were carried out last night in Florida and Missouri. Both inmates died by lethal injection. From the world of retail, OpenAI is now partnering with Walmart. It's to let shoppers make purchases directly within ChatGPT. Correspondent Matt Piper.
Users can ask it for things like best mattresses under $1,000 or a gift for an avid reader and buy suggested products from within the chat. OpenAI announced the instant checkout feature in late September and launched with Etsy. Now, using that checkout, shoppers in conversation with the AI-powered bot will be able to browse Walmart and Sam's Club's offerings through ChatGPT and complete purchases from within the app.
A Consumer Reports investigation has found some protein powders and shakes contain unsafe levels of lead. In fact, more than 2/3 of those analyzed contained more lead in a single serving than what experts say is safe to consume in a day. Still to come on the Noon Report, water woes in Ripley. Believe it or not, searching for treasure in Lake Erie, and closing time at prison guard trial.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Williams, tracking cooler air moving into the region today. I'll have the numbers and the complete forecast in 10.
All right, Kevin, we'll look for you then. Thank you very much. Let's check the stories making news where you live, all across New York and Pennsylvania. Closing arguments got underway today in the trial of 3 former prison guards charged in the beating death of an inmate at the Marcy Correctional Facility near Utica, New York. Prosecutors called nearly a dozen witnesses during the trial. The defense did not call a single one. The ex-prison guards face 25 years to life in prison if they are convicted. Pennsylvania Congressman Glenn Thompson is weighing in on the government shutdown and the prospects for peace in the Middle East. I spoke with him earlier today, and here's some of that conversation. What is it going to take to end this impasse, Congressman? And is the House Speaker correct in suggesting that maybe this might be the longest shutdown in history?
Unfortunately, I know it saddens the Speaker to think that, but this really falls on the shoulders of Senator Schumer and his control over the Senate Democrats. The House Republicans have done their job. We passed a clean, continuing resolution. Keeping the government funding is the responsibility that Congress has, and so many times both parties would try to leverage something, and Republicans didn't do that this time.
Are you seeing any cracks in the armor as far as GOP solidarity here?
I don't think so. I think all members are feeling stress, obviously. The stress that is incurred by our constituents, whether they don't get a paycheck or they don't have access to services. It's time to do the right thing. Let's open the government. Let's do the people's business. Health care is too expensive, but that's the kind of thing that we do in regular order, not something we do in a crisis.
Yeah, big dealings in the Middle East. How big of a deal was that peace accord that the president signed in Egypt? Winning the war and winning the peace are two different things, GT, but could any other president done what Mr. Trump did in the Middle East this week?
Absolutely not. President Trump, I'm so proud of him, proud of his resolve, proud of his commitment, his leadership. The hostages are home. And no other president could do this. And this is being recognized and celebrated around the world.
That's Pennsylvania Congressman Glenn G.T. Thompson, as he's known. His 15th congressional district spans all or parts of 18 counties in western and central Pennsylvania, as well as the northern tier. As New York energy policy shifts toward all electric, one state assemblyman says he's still waiting for answers from Albany.
A lot of these goals are great, but they're just not feasible right now in a lot of our minds.
Western New York Democrat Bill Conrad.
With regard to the January deadline in the all-electric building, right now we're not 100% sure what the state regulations on building codes are going to be.
New York's All-Electric Building Act phases out fossil fuels in most new building constructions, including homes. That law is set to take effect January 1st of 2026. 6 months after he tried to assassinate Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, a 38-year-old man has pled guilty to attempted murder, arson, and terrorism charges. We're talking about Cody Bulmer. He was caught on video last April, setting the official residence of the governor on fire.
He could be seen moving around the mansion, kicking at doors in close proximity to rooms where the governor and his family were sleeping. No one was injured in the incident. About an hour after the attack, Balmer called 911 himself, criticized the governor's stance on the war in Gaza, and admitted responsibility.
That's correspondent Scott McFarland. Governor Shapiro, alongside his wife Lori, spoke to the media yesterday.
He tried to burn our family to death while we slept. To be honest, Lori and I have struggled over the last 6 months to try and make sense of all of this. And the hardest part has been trying to explain it to our 4 children.
The governor admits political violence has rattled his family.
I've carried with me this enormous sense of guilt. Guilt that doing this job that I love so much has put our children's lives at risk. It's been really hard. And candidly, I don't know that I've been able to give them the right answers.
The arsonist could spend the next 50 years in prison. That attack happened over the Jewish Passover holiday. The governor is Jewish. New York Governor Kathy Hochul joined New York City mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani yesterday for a campaign rally in Queens. It was her first appearance with him since endorsing the self-avowed socialist last month. Scott Pringle continues our coverage.
Hochul invited Mamdani to her event in Astoria on Tuesday. She called Mamdani reasonable and backs Mamdani's campaign pledge of bringing universal child care to New York City.
I believe he's touched a nerve. He's created an energy around the will to just focus on what'll make New York City even more exceptional, and that is to make it more affordable.
However, Hochul says there are still details to be worked out on how to pay for free child care should Mamdani win. Hochul admitted to reporters after she still has major differences with Mamdani on many issues.
The polls show Mamdani with a big lead over fellow Democrat and former Governor Andrew Cuomo. Republican challenger Curtis Sliwa comes in third, according to the polls. A state of emergency in the town of Ripley in western New York. Critically low water levels in the Ripley Reservoir due to a lack of rain could result in that town running out of water. The town supervisor says the creek that streams water into the reservoir is drying out. Officials stress that Ripley residents must conserve where they can, or there may not be enough water for drinking, sanitation, or fire protection. Ripley is a town of about 2,500 people in the westernmost part of the westernmost county in the state of New York, Chautauqua County. There may not be any gold at the bottom of Lake Erie, but scientists are still searching for treasure beneath the waves. Here's Family Life's Brian Query.
Researchers with the Ocean Exploration Cooperative Institute are mapping nearly 100 square miles of the lake bed along the Pennsylvania, New York, and Canadian borders. Using an uncrewed 30-foot yellow vessel called the LR-30, the team is scanning the depths off eastern Erie County to locate shipwrecks and uncover pieces of regional history. Erie Maritime Museum Site Administrator Jim Hall says that any underwater cultural resource found there is a treasure. The mission runs through October 18th, with findings to be shared at an upcoming open house and later released to the public. Brian Query, Family Life News.
Thank you very much, Brian. Sports next. It's the 2-minute drill right here on the Family Life Noon Report.
Good afternoon, I'm Randy Snavely. Bob, the last guy to do it was Justin Verlander in 2017 against the New York Yankees. Talking about a complete game in the postseason by a starting pitcher. Last night, Yoshinobu Yamamoto gave up a leadoff home run on his very first pitch of the game, and then he was lights out the rest of the way. Only allowed 2 more hits, and he went the full 9 innings. The Dodgers seized a 2-0 lead against the Brewers with a 5-1 victory. And like Seattle in the American League Championship Series, LA is heading home for a chance to wrap up a 4-game sweep. On the offensive side, Teoscar Hernandez and Max Muncy both hit home runs, while Enrique Hernandez had a couple of hits and scored twice. Tommy Edman also a pair of hits, and he drove in a run. Here's the scary thing for Milwaukee. Ohtani, Betts, and Freeman, the Dodgers' 3 MVPs, went a combined 2 for 13 with just 1 RBI. When you shut down LA's big 3, you expect to win the game. But it didn't happen for Milwaukee, and the Brewers now have to face Tyler Glasnow in Game 3 on Thursday in what is pretty much a must-win situation. Speaking of must win, that's the position the Toronto Blue Jays are in against the Seattle Mariners. The Jays have to find a way to win in Seattle in Game 3 of the American League Series. That's tonight. You know the history of the game. If you go down 3-0 in the postseason, you're probably not going to win the series. It's only ever happened once before. And that's a look at sports.
All right, Randy, thank you. And still to come on the Noon Report, a midweek edition. It's day 15 of the government shutdown. Disturbing new developments out of Gaza today. And ICE protests get rowdy in Chicago.
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet. On this day in 1844, the brilliant and troubled atheist philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche was born in the village of Rocken in Germany. Nietzsche is best known for the claim God is dead, which he made in 2 parables. In Thus Spake Zarathustra, Nietzsche promised the potential if humans would only evolve beyond religion. But the parable of the madman was more of a warning, not written to those who believed in God, but to those who didn't. It begins this way, quote, "Have you not heard of that madman who lit a lantern in the bright morning hours, ran in the marketplace, and cried incessantly, 'I seek God, I seek God'? As many of those who did not believe in God were standing around just then, he provoked much laughter. 'Has he got lost?' asked one. 'Did he lose his way like a child?' asked another. 'Is he hiding? Is he afraid of us? Has he gone on a voyage?' Thus they yelled and laughed." In the late 19th century, many intellectuals believed in a utopian future without a God that was weighing us down. Nietzsche, however, believed that these children of the Enlightenment had underestimated just how significant the so-called death of God would be. And so his madman answered the skeptics, quote, "Where is God? I'll tell you. We've killed him, you and I. All of us are his murderers. But how did we do this? How could we drink up the sea? Who gave us the sponge to wipe away the horizon? What were we doing when we unchained this earth from its sun? Where is it moving now? Where are we moving? Away from all suns? Are we not plunging continually, backward, sideward, forward, in all directions? Is there any up or down? Are we not straying as through an infinite nothing? Do we not feel the breath of empty space? Has it not become colder? Is not night continually closing in on us? Do we not need to light lanterns in the morning?" You see, Nietzsche was not claiming that God had once existed but no longer did. Rather, he recognized what the loss of God meant as the central reference point for Western civilization. Specifically, the death of God would hold incredible implications for morality and for meaning. Without God, what is up and down, forward or back? What will warm us? What can light our way? Now, when I began teaching worldviews in the early 2000s, I often highlighted the absurd inconsistencies of attempting to make meaning in a meaningless universe. After all, if truth is relative and words have no fixed meaning, I would ask students, what could prevent someone from claiming that a stop sign means go, or up means down, or a man is a woman? Why couldn't murder mean healthcare? Why couldn't injustice be justified by just redefining oppression and justice? Well, today, obviously, many of those examples have become the substance of Supreme Court cases. The hypotheticals are now actuals. And Nietzsche also predicted that. Quote, "And here the madman fell silent and looked again at his listeners. They too were silent and stared at him in astonishment. And at last he threw his lantern to the ground and it broke into pieces. 'I've come too early,' he said. 'My time is not yet. This tremendous event is still on its way, still wandering. It's not yet reached the ears of men. Lightning and thunder require time. The light of stars require time. Deeds, though done, require time to be seen and heard. This deed is more distant from them than the most distant stars, and yet they have done it themselves." Now, of course, God is not dead. Nietzsche was wrong about that, but he did foresee the coming crises of meaning, trust, truth, and identity that inflicts the Western world. With a clarity, unlike most who reject God, Nietzsche understood that, as the Catechism puts it, our only hope in life and death is that we are not our own, but belong body and soul, life and death, to God and to our Savior Jesus Christ. Now, Nietzsche, of course, did not believe that kind of hope was real. He also did not think that once the West lost hope, it could ever rediscover it. And let's hope, in honor of Friedrich Nietzsche's birthday, that he was also wrong about that. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet with Breakpoint.
Thank you very much, John. Let's head outside next. The always dependable Kevin Williams.
Here is your family life weather forecast for this afternoon. Varying amounts of clouds and sunshine, cooler than recent days. High temperatures 50s to near 60, becoming mainly clear, chilly tonight. Frosty for many, low temps 30s to near 40. A good deal of sunshine tomorrow and Friday. High temperatures tomorrow, 50s to near 60, and right around 60 then on Friday.
All right, thank you, Kevin. This is the Noon Report on Family Life. I'm your host, Bob Price. Great to have you with us today. It's Wednesday, October 15th, and here's what's happening. A warning from President Trump as Hamas terrorists send gunmen into the streets of Gaza just days after a ceasefire with Israel took hold.
If they don't disarm, we will disarm them, and it'll happen quickly and perhaps violently.
Hamas militants were captured on video today conducting public executions of Palestinian civilians. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says despite that atrocity, he is hopeful the peace deal will hold.
We agreed to give peace a chance. We agreed the conditions in his 20-point plan are very clear. It's not only that we get the hostages out, but that we would subsequently have both demilitarization and disarmament. They're not the same thing. First, Hamas has to give up its arms. And second, you want to make sure that there are no weapons factories inside Gaza. There's no smuggling of weapons into Gaza.
Many of the dead hostages that Hamas is holding have yet to be turned over in accordance with the ceasefire. 90% of the buildings in Gaza have been damaged or destroyed by the war. It is feared that some of those deceased hostages are buried in the rubble. On Capitol Hill, the stare down continues. It's day 15 of the government shutdown.
The motion is not agreed to.
With Congress at a standstill, President Trump is threatening more targeted cuts. In the past week, many federal workers received their final paychecks. Air traffic controllers were among those who received a portion of what they are owed. Many fanned out at airports across the country, urging lawmakers to open the government.
Most controllers around the country are already working 6-day work weeks, 10-hour days. They shouldn't have the extra burden of worrying about when they're going to get paid.
Members of the military will get their paychecks due today after the administration rearranged Pentagon funds at the president's direction.
CBS's Caitlin Huey Burns. Republicans are warning an extended shutdown could disrupt the upcoming Thanksgiving travel season. Our coverage continues with correspondent Rory O'Neill.
Airports will be flooded with flight cancellations and delays, warns Republican House Majority Whip Tom Emmer. That is if the shutdown drags on. Little progress has been made to break the impasse that's kept the government shut down since October 1st. House Republicans say they passed a temporary spending bill, but Democrats in the Senate are blocking the measure in a fight to extend subsidies for health care plans. I'm Rory O'Neill.
And the U.S. Senate will try again this afternoon to end the stalemate in Washington. An angry mob attacked an ICE facility in Chicago last night. Police had to employ tear gas to keep the protesters at bay. NBC's Shaq Brewster has more.
Dramatic confrontations come as Homeland Security officials are warning Mexican drug cartels are now offering cash bounties to target ICE officers and other federal agents, including $5,000 to $10,000 for kidnapping or assaulting officers, and up to $50,000 for the assassination of high-ranking officials.
1,500 arrests have been made since early September when DHS launched Operation Midway Blitz. Meantime, in California, Los Angeles County has just declared a state of emergency over recent ICE raids there. The U.S. Supreme Court heard arguments today on a case that could undermine one of the last surviving tenets of the Voting Rights Act.
Civil rights advocates like Ashley Shelton say now is not the time to gut Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act and end the use of race in redistricting.
We cannot pretend that there isn't going to be considerable loss of minority voice and power if we were to do away with Section 2.
Advocates credit Section 2 with increasing minority representation nationwide by requiring states to draw some districts that are majority black. But critics say black candidates are winning in Louisiana and elsewhere in non-minority districts, and grouping people based on their race only fuels divisions. Louisiana Attorney General Liz Murrill says the case shows how states are in an impossible position.
The Constitution has told us to not sort people by race. The courts have told us we can't sort voters by race, and yet we are being told to go out and sort our voters by race.
That report from CBS's Jan Crawford. President Trump has posthumously awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom to slain conservative activist Charlie Kirk.
In his final moments, Charlie testified to the greatness of America and to the glory of our Savior, with whom he now rests in heaven.
Kirk's widow, Erica, accepted the award on behalf of her late husband on what would have been his 32nd birthday.
It's such an honor and the recognition of a life lived for defending freedom. And that's what Charlie fought for until his last breath.
Kirk was fatally shot September 10th while speaking at a college in Utah. It was the first stop of his American Comeback Tour, which invited college students to publicly debate him on the issues of the day.
His story reminds us all that to live free is the greatest gift, but to die free is the greatest victory.
There have been less than 700 Presidential Medal of Freedom recipients since the award was first given by President Lyndon Johnson in 1963. This is the Noon Report, a midweek edition on Family Life.
Seeking answers to life's big questions. Welcome to part 2 of a special edition of Real Answers with licensed mental health counselor Christopher Anderson talking about the aftermath of the assassination of prominent conservative Christian voice Charlie Kirk. That, along with other recent events, has many people looking for answers to those big questions, answers that Christians should be ready to give.
Let's delve into that a bit more. We talked about at the beginning about this being a cultural moment, and it is a huge opportunity, if you will, to witness to a wacky world. So many people, and even before this happened, we've seen younger people in particular. Look at all the events that have happened on college campuses. Thousands turning their lives to Christ because they've been looking for answers, and the world don't got them.
That's right.
Then they're finding that they can find answers through Christ. So big opportunity, and you don't want to fumble the ball here. A precarious time for believers. Charlie Kirk paid the ultimate price for his belief. We've seen others who've been persecuted, you name them. So you have to be prepared for questions.
Absolutely. Do a little bit of homework, too, prior to engaging unbelievers, or even, honestly, Mark, believers who may just hold different political views than you. Find some scriptures or use a tract to help you locate those scriptures that might really help you to shore up in those areas that you feel a little less confident in, okay? Charlie Kirk spent hours studying constitutional principles, not to mention biblical principles, too. He was very confident, obviously, in doing what he was doing to go into these op-eds.
Yeah, anybody who tried to debate him quickly found out
They found out. Yes, they did.
And just being winsome. I mean, the Bible talks a lot about being winsome in your faith.
Absolutely. And I would also say, take some significant time to sit down and prayerfully consider the ways that God's worked in your own life. Come up with a running record, a journal or something, of the ways that God has worked in your life that you cannot explain things other than it being from God. Because remember, our testimony is not just the ability to rattle off some scripture or point people to some cool books. No, it's like, here's my connection to all this. And try to personalize it a little bit. If you want to increase your confidence to be able to talk to folks, this is a great way to do it.
If you want to play good on Sunday, learn the playbook.
That's right.
There's no substitute for that, knowing the Word. There's plenty of passages in Scripture about getting it in your heart, getting it there so it's there when you need it. You're listening to Real Answers here. I'm Mark Webster, along with licensed mental health counselor Christopher Anderson, talking about reacting the right way to the assassination of Charlie Kirk. It's a good point to look at this from a clergy standpoint. This is a big moment for pastors. They're going to be getting people walking in the doors who are looking for answers and might be uncomfortable when they walk through those doors.
Yeah, absolutely. And please understand, too, that a lot of these folks coming into your doors may not look like you. They may not sound like you. They may be terrified to even be there, but there's something that brought them there. Best thing you can do is greet them at the door. Have people shake hands. Just offer them a cup of coffee. Make them feel welcome right away. And remember, especially, goodness, right now is the time to just share the gospel, just share the truth without feeling like you've got to address every single question that could possibly come up. At this point, just love on folks, share the gospel, welcome them, invite them back to ask the questions and to say, we have a really hard time with this. We don't like what we're seeing, but we also don't like the direction we were going. But what do we do now? Get them in, get them talking, and give God the time that he will take to mold them the way he sees fit into the likeness of his son, just like he did with us as believers.
Yeah, and it's just as important for every member of a congregation because they're probably contact point A for the person walking in the door before they even hear anything out of the pastor's mouth. Remember the first time you walked in those doors at a church and were like, well, now what?
What's going on here? Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's so important is that contact time and being invited and being followed up with is ultimately what really helps folks to feel connected, even if they're not in full agreement yet. We've got to get away from necessarily thinking they have to be in full agreement right away. I mean, that's going to take time. That's the whole process of sanctification. We got justification, which is immediate. That's the salvation moment. But then we have the process of sanctification. And quite honestly, we are all still a work in progress.
Let's try to wrap this up in a little package, if that's even possible, because as we just said, there's a lot of nuances to this. Let's talk to a believer trying to come up with a game plan. What's next? How do we deal with this, and how do we help non-believers deal with it as well?
I would say just take your own time as a believer to process the events of what have happened, and then just really see, what is God trying to get you to do in terms of examination of your own life. And again, understanding what he may be getting you to do. Is he putting somebody on your heart to initiate a conversation with, or is he just inviting you to spend more time in prayer, praying for the direction of our nation? Or maybe it's something as simple as cutting down on the amount of time you are personally listening to your preferred media outlets. Okay. I mean, there's all sorts of things that you can do. Ask God where he's taking you individually in your walk with him, and how can you connect better with your friends and neighbors in a way that'll be loving, it will be welcoming, and potential invitations to come worship with you on Sunday or in your church there. So there's a lot we can do.
Amen. You've been listening to Real Answers, a Wednesday feature of the Family Life Noon Report, where we discuss the issues important to families with licensed mental health counselor Christopher Anderson. Thanks again, Chris.
Absolutely, Mark.
All right. Thank you, guys. Real Answers are available. Our podcasts are available at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or FamilyLife.org.
Good afternoon. Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast on the midday weather map. We're watching the departing nor'easter and the passage of a cold front, the combination of which will lead to cooler weather over the next several days and nights, but mainly dry weather. The next chance for any widespread rain will come Sunday, Monday of next week. A front delivers showers then. For this afternoon, varying amounts of clouds and sunshine, cooler than recent days. High temperatures 50s to near 60, becoming mainly clear, chilly tonight. Frosty for many, low temps 30s to near 40. A good deal of sunshine tomorrow and Friday. High temperatures tomorrow, 50s to near 60, and right around 60 then on Friday.
Great work as always. Thank you, Kevin. And finally at noon, still afraid of the dark? Don't worry, a lot of us are, even as adults. Bree Tennis reports.
Researchers say being afraid of the dark starts around age 3, and it's something most of us outgrow by our teen years. But a new study from Talker Research shows nearly 1/3 of adults are still afraid of the dark. More men report being afraid than women. Psychologists say it's okay. It's a primal fear, and there's no judgment on the 24% of adults who still use a nightlight. I'm Bree Tennis.
All right, thank you, Bree. And just like that, we're out of time. That's our world. The world we live in, Wednesday, October 15th. I'm Bob Price. Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.